There is a specific story we tell ourselves about human history. It describes a clean, upward line moving from tribal struggle directly into modern abundance. It is a highly comforting narrative, but it also ignores the persistent reality that human infrastructure reliably collapses. Back in the 14th century, a Tunisian polymath named Ibn Khaldun watched the empires around him fracture and noticed a recurring pattern. Civilizations rarely fall to outside invaders first. Instead, they hollow out from the inside. The shared purpose that builds a society grows strong under extreme hardship, but it reliably dissolves under comfort. 7 centuries later, a complexity theorist named Peter Turchin took Khaldun's philosophical observation and mapped it mathematically. He built a research field called cliodynamics, feeding massive historical datasets into computational models to track exactly how societies break down. This chart plots Turchin's findings, showing 2 specific trend lines that drive instability. First, you have popular immiseration, a measurable drop in the living standards of the general public. At the same time, you have elite overproduction, a rapidly rising class of highly credentialed, ambitious people competing for a shrinking number of leadership roles. When those 2 pressures peak at the same time, the social cooperation required to run a state simply fails. Frustrated elites fight destructively for power, and the broader population loses faith in the institutions. The data tracks so reliably that back in 2010, Turchin used these specific variables to predict a major crisis in the United States by 2020. 10 years later, the math proved correct. History shows that civilizational collapse follows legible patterns. It can be mapped, measured, and identified long before the final break occurs. Looking at the thousands of distinct cultures scattered across history reveals a strange statistical anomaly. We assume that all empires eventually decay, but the probability that every single society failed to solve its internal pressures is remarkably low. It is highly likely that sustainable communities did exist, societies that successfully constrained their elites, distributed their prosperity, and managed to maintain their social trust across multiple generations, which leaves us with a difficult question. If these balanced, successful models existed, why didn't they become the blueprint for human progress? Why are they entirely missing from the historical record? The answer relies on a systems theory concept known as a multipolar trap. This occurs when multiple rational actors, pursuing their own self-interest, collectively generate a disastrous outcome. This matrix illustrates the core logic using a standard arms race. It shows 2 competing nations. Neither wants to drain its treasury building missiles, but if one adds a weapon to gain a tactical edge, the other immediately matches it. They burn through their resources, yet relative power remains exactly the same. Inside this environment, choosing peace does not make you a moral victor. If one side steps off the treadmill, they don't change the game. They simply hand a lethal advantage to their rival. That is what makes a multipolar trap so dangerous. It cannot be escaped unilaterally. If you try to opt out of the destructive behavior alone, you accept absolute defeat. This animated map shows how that game theory applies directly to civilizational history. Imagine a stable, contained society that chooses internal harmony, keeping its military small and its consumption low. Next to it is a second society, actively suffering from the internal decay and elite overproduction Peter Turchin mapped. This volatile society relieves pressure by expanding outward. War unifies a fractured public, and conquering territory provides resources to pay off a frustrated elite. By making the rational choice to limit its military and invest in domestic balance, the peaceful society degrades its capacity to project violence. It does not serve as a model for its neighbor. It becomes a highly attractive target. The history we inherit is severely distorted by survivorship bias. We are reading a timeline authored exclusively by aggressively extractive cultures, societies that violently erased the sustainable alternatives before they could leave a permanent record. Over thousands of years, this brutal selection process rewarded aggressive expansion so consistently that competing nation-states have effectively merged into a single, highly integrated global system, an entity systems theorists call a superorganism. Think of the way a cancer cell operates. From its own perspective, the cancer is not malfunctioning. It is highly successful. It extracts resources, outcompetes adjacent cells, and devours its environment to achieve maximum short-term growth. Humanity's relationship with the biosphere mirrors this exact dynamic. The societies that maximize extraction and ignore ecological limits outcompete the ones that practice restraint. They dominate the global economy, dictate the terms of trade, and win the geopolitical board. The modern global system is operating exactly as its historical incentives intended. Just like the cancer cell, the strategy required to win in the short term eventually kills the host organism it relies on to survive. We have successfully coordinated to escape traps before. International treaties banning ozone-depleting chemicals prove that humanity can choose collective survival over individual advantage. But those victories were possible because the problems were peripheral. Regulating an aerosol propellant did not threaten the core industrial power of the nation signing the treaty. It was a single sector, and enough political will could be gathered to constrain it. The crises we face today, the arms races in artificial intelligence or global fossil fuel extraction, are load-bearing. They are woven into the substrate of all geopolitical power. Any nation that stops extracting or stops developing the next algorithm knows they are handing global dominance directly to a rival who refuses to slow down. Our most urgent modern crises are structural failures of coordination. By continuing to play a game that punishes restraint and rewards extraction, we lock ourselves into a trajectory toward total systemic failure.